it's Mike. Welcome back to Mike's Diabetes World. Okay, current blood sugar, we're sitting at 11.1. You see, after breakfast, I went right up, and if you watched 2 videos ago, which we're recording on the same day, just so I could catch up to. I knew this was going to happen because we had syrup and I miscalculated. So we went up. I'm sitting at 11, which isn't terrible, but we'll see how I go later on. Okay, we're still virtually the same. Time in range, 57% time in range in the last 24 hours. This has increased by 0.1, still 57.43. We want to be at 70. Today, I want to discuss my biggest mistake, part 3. And I just want to bring this up so that you could learn from the mistakes I made. And hopefully you won't make the same. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. So, I was playing this check and balances, but it was a very loose game. And I went out with friends at their apartment, and I wasn't feeling that great. I said, I think I need to go to the hospital. I knew when I had to go to the hospital. That part, a little alarm always went off. But things for me were not going that well that day. I went, they checked me in, they started an IV on me, and they said, well, you usually go to Burnaby. Why are you here? And I said, well, I was out with friends. I'm really not feeling that great, so I ended up here. You were the closest hospital. They said, oh, okay, well, Burnaby knows about you, so we're going to transfer you back over to Burnaby. And I was transferred over to Burnaby. I was in the hospital for just short of 2 weeks. And when I went into Burnaby, it was into Burnaby Emergency, they said to me, well, why are you in DKA this time? I hadn't started throwing up, but I was showing ketones. And I said, well, the last couple of weeks, I just celebrated my birthday, and I've sort of stayed in that birthday mode. And I admitted it. That was probably the first time I didn't try to hide behind my diabetes. Oh, well, yes, it just came out of the blue. I don't know why, but it just came out of the blue. Yeah, came out of the blue all right. It was because I wasn't taking care of myself. Once it rolled over, I was able to accept that I've done something to get me into this. Wasn't enough to send me into caring for myself all the time, but I was in the hospital, and nights were, I would walk the halls. If I didn't have friends coming to visit, I'd walk the halls. I remember in Burnaby, where the emergency room and the cafeteria was, to where the patient tower was a long corridor. And I would walk that corridor every night, back and forth, back and forth. But I wasted more people's money. I didn't go low. I went in almost a DKA, but they still were trying to get me sorted. My blood sugar doesn't sort easily. Sort, I mean, by getting into a pattern. Even today, when I'm trying to do things and follow the patterns, I still end up days that I go crazy, blood sugars. Other times, I'm kind of sitting there, happy-go-lucky. But now I look back at this and I said, what a jerk. I didn't know the ramifications of how serious type 1 diabetes can be. It could be something nice and well controlled, and you can live a life, you can succeed. I've used this illustration before many times on this video. Is during that time in my life, diabetes was here. It was in my face all the time. I couldn't do anything without diabetes being there. Now, diabetes is over here. I know it's there. I can see it. But it's not every friggin' minute of the day. And once you learn that, and once you accept mistakes you've made and how to correct them and how to stay out of them, and start taking care of yourself, your diabetes, you have it, you know you have it, and you know it could be waiting here to become this again. But if you work at it, keep it under control, it can be over here. But who knows? I could have done better. I wish I sort of had. Wish I sort of had woken up to not playing with blood sugars, not playing with insulin. In fact, nowadays, I don't play around with insulin. I take the insulin that I need. My pump helps me quite a bit with that, but I don't take extra just for the sake of taking extra insulin. So, again, learn from my mistakes so you don't do it. Follow your game plan. Nowadays, you have more feedback with your doctors and coming up with a plan that could work for you. I wish I had learned that earlier and could come in. Hey, things could have worked better for me. I really wish I had done that. You know, it would have been so much easier. You wake up, you do a blood sugar, you take your insulin, you do your lunch blood sugar. If you're high, you take your correction dose as prescribed, and you just follow this routine, lunch and bed. If you constantly are high 3 days in control, increase it by 2 units, or whatever your doctor had said. Don't quote me on the dosing. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a person who's had diabetes for many years. But do whatever amount he suggests or she suggests and carry on from there. Make sure you have an endocrinologist. Once I got on with a good endocrinologist, my diabetes seemed to work a little bit better. We went through some rusty patches, but all in all, I wonder where I would have been in today's life. With that, don't make mistakes I made. Have a great day. Bye now. My email address is mikesdiabetesworld@gmail.com. All one line. Drop me